Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So in this video, as you can see, the kind of clickbait title, Why You Are Probably a Men's Rights Activist. And I was thinking a few different titles for this. One of the titles I was considering is that most people support men's rights, but are against men's rights activists. And let me kind of explain what I mean, and let me explain why I think you are probably a men's rights activist, even if you don't think that you are. When I talk about men's rights and men's issues online or in person, I get very different reactions when I use the men's rights activist label or not. And I find that most people agree with the things that men's rights activists believe, because MRAs just want equality, and we just want equality for all. And we just tend to focus on male issues that affect men and boys that are very commonly ignored. And I find that when I talk about male issues and when I talk about the kinds of things that MRAs talk about, the vast majority of people seem to agree. But when I use the men's rights label, when I call myself an MRA or a men's rights activist, suddenly I get very negative and very hostile reactions. And I realized it's not because people disagree with the things that MRAs believe. It's because people have a misconception of the things that MRAs believe. It's the perception and the image that the men's rights movement and men's rights activists have. Now, if you don't believe me, if you don't think that you would agree with what MRAs think, let's do a little test. Do you think that male and female criminals should be treated equally in the justice system and the court system? Do you think that boys and girls should get an equal education and equal educational opportunities? Do you think that male and female job applicants should be treated the same by a potential employer? Do you think that men and women should have equal rights when it comes to accessing low-income government programs for healthcare or for welfare or for housing? And obviously there will be some differences, for pregnant women and whatnot, but for the most part, do you think that general basic services should be the same? So if you answered yes to those questions, so far you're thinking like a men's rights activist would think, because we believe in equality for all. So now let me ask you some questions that are a bit more specific to men's issues and the MRA point of view. Do you think that homeless men should be ignored and left outside to freeze in the winter? Do you think that male victims of domestic violence should be ignored or even blamed? Do you think that baby boys should be circumcised when they're born for no reason at all, even if there's no medical cause for it? Do you think that men should be punished more harshly for the same crime when there's no aggravating or additional factors? If you said no to those questions, you're also thinking like a men's rights activist, because we are against discrimination of men and boys, and we want to address issues that affect men and boys. The men's rights movement is not about hating women, and it's not about taking away women's rights. And it's not about being anti-feminist. It's about looking at issues that affect men and boys and trying to address these issues that affect men and boys. Now, a lot of people will say that MRAs very often sound anti-feminist. The reason why this perception exists is because the people that we face the most criticism from, and when we debate these kinds of issues that affect men and boys, the people that tend to argue with us the most and the people that we get pushback from the most just happens to be feminists. But we're not going out trying to pick a fight. All we want is equality. And it really kind of is simple as that. There are many feminists who I've talked to who agree with these issues. And there are many feminists who I talk to who would agree with everything I said in this video. And there are, in fact, people in the world, many people in the world, who call themselves both feminists and MRAs. You don't have to be anti-feminist to be an MRA. But there are some feminist organizations and political groups who use feminism for a purpose other than equality. So when we criticize feminists, and on this channel, if you browse and you search by feminists, you will see I have made dozens of videos criticizing feminists and accusing feminists of supporting discrimination against men. Click any one of those videos and I guarantee you, I will source and link and quote the reason why I am criticizing that person or that organization. It's not something that I'm just making up, and it's not something that I just read on some blog somewhere. It's something that I'm seeing firsthand and responding to. So this is a common point of contention that I have with my fellow MRAs. And sometimes I'll hear that I'm not anti-feminist enough and that I'm not harsh enough on feminists and some of the things that they do. And to that point, I would say again, browse my channel and browse the history of my videos and search by feminists. And you'll see I've made a lot of videos being very, very critical of things that feminists say and do. I think the problem is a lot of people, to go back to what I said in the beginning, there's a misconception about what MRAs believe. And there's also a lot of missing information about what men's issues actually are. And a lot of people simply aren't aware of some of the statistics and some of the issues that men face. So I think there's a lot of people with very good intentions who call themselves feminists and they want to support women's rights. And I think that's absolutely fine. And I think it would be a mistake to say that we should be against feminism because the definition of feminism is a good thing. It's equality. The problem from the perspective of MRAs is not the definition of feminism. The problem is how feminism has very often been executed. And the problem is with these political lobby-based groups that organize laws and organize rallies and feminist academics who are using feminism as a tool rather than as a force for good. To do a video to break down that would take well over an hour, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that and say this. The men's rights movement is not a misogynistic group, and the men's rights movement is not inherently an anti-feminist group. The men's rights movement supports equality for all, and we advocate for men's issues. And there are some feminists who are hostile towards us, and so we don't really have a choice but to make a response in which we disagree with them, and we criticize them for some of the laws they support and some of the rhetoric that they say. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm BlueOrange22. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, or you can email me at blueorange22mra@gmail.com. Happy New Year!